Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It is David Ruff here, and man, do we have stories today. Collapses in China could have rippling effects across the globe and affect your home prices right in Toronto, right in the United States, all over the world, because China is such a massive country with so much debt. What happens in China does not stay in China. It also can come and affect you in Canada, in Toronto. What happens in China affects you. So, how does this affect you? And how do you protect yourself against it? We are going to be covering some really crazy stuff today from the Ray Dalio, Peter Zian, and some of the hot news today. Now, let's get right into it. All right, you guys. So we're going to be covering some crazy stuff today. I hope that you guys really enjoy it. All right, you guys, we're going to be covering a lot of subjects today. All right, so some of my favorite books, the Ray Dalio book on how the world, this is the Changing World Order by Ray Dalio, and it is called Why Nations Succeed and Fail, one of the best books of the year. Also, Peter Zian, The End of the World is Just the Beginning. These two books, man, are game changers. I suggest everybody go and check out these books. You should read them. We're going to be talking a little bit about that, and then we're going to be getting into some of these news articles. So without further ado, let's get into the article that we're going to cover today. Chinese real estate collapse throws economy into chaos. Now, I need you, when we're going through this article, to pay attention to not just the title as if it sits in China. I'm going to make a lot of references to what is happening right today in Canada, in United States. All right, let's jump straight into this article because there's a lot to cover here. Chinese real estate collapse is throwing the economy in crisis. Of course it is. It says here in this article, it's on the Daily Wire, we'll link it below. China's collapsing real estate market could throw the world's second largest economy into chaos and worsen the global economic slowdown. Yes, Chinese developers have already lost $90 billion in the last year. 90 billion. It's a lot of money, okay? So if they've lost that, now they said home prices have gone down for 11 months. We are behind the curve. We have not been losing as many months as China has. China is now 11 months into the fall. Dozens of developers have defaulted. Now, this is the main key, I think, of why China is so different than Canada and the United States. And it all comes down to how their system is set up. So let's talk about that. I wrote it down for you guys. All right, let's talk about it, okay? So this chart right here shows you in Canada, we might purchase the item, right? We might purchase it early in 2020 and only take hold of it in 2023 or something like that. And then in 2023 is when we would actually be putting a mortgage on the property. We wouldn't be putting it on it way when we first signed the contract in the very beginning. But in China will take the pre-construction unit and the mortgage starts the moment you sign for the building, even though you may not get ownership of it for 5 years. Even if you don't get ownership of it for 5 years, you have to start paying your mortgage immediately, the day you sign. Whereas in Canada and the United States, when you get the project, when you get the unit, you sign and obviously you put a deposit on it, but you only get the mortgage starting when you take ownership of it. I need you to understand how that can affect everything. Imagine in Canada, you might only have to put a couple percent down to hold the unit. You might not have to start your mortgage for 4 or 5 years until you move in it. I mean, you might be in a condo that you're renting. How do you afford rent and a mortgage payment on something that's not even going to arrive here for 5 years? So let's go back to the article. More than 80% of Chinese home buyers take out mortgages and begin paying them down before their prospective home is completed. I mean, to me, this is just absolutely shocking. Let's look at that again. I need you to understand this. Canada and the United States. We buy a property in 2020, say, we put a deposit, then we move on. We might only get the building 3, 4, 5 years later. 5 years later, then we put a mortgage on it. So you might be paying rent all this time from 22 to 23 and then start a mortgage. So you're not ever double paying. But in China, this crazy place, China, As soon as you get your pre-construction, as soon as you get it, your mortgage starts. The moment. Now, you may not get the home for 5 years, but your mortgage starts back here. So what do you do for those 5 years? You have to be paying your mortgage and you have to be paying your rent during that time, which is absolutely crazy. Okay, so let's go back to this story because there's so much more to unpack. More than 80% of Chinese homebuyers take out mortgages and begin paying them down before their home is ever completed. Wow. Okay, that is crazy. This arrangement, which was once a source of easily acceptable capital in a red hot housing market, has left countless Chinese consumers holding the bag on half finished homes and may never be fully constructed. Can we understand what the implications of that? It was once a source of easy, accessible capital. Oh my goodness. It sounds like a Ponzi scheme, right? It sounds like you're getting ripped off. Okay. And it's leaving Chinese consumers holding the bag for the homes that are not finished. Yeah. Now, they were talking to somebody there, one boycotter, and he says, if we the people are not happy, it's difficult to have a stable society. Do we have to read that a second time? If people are not happy, it's difficult to have a stable society. I mean, that should be the same for Canada, United States, should be everywhere, right? But today, everyone is unhappy. There's so much anger and pulling one way or the other. It's really unhealthy. So the economy can't be stable in that sense. So if we go down here, more of the yellow in the same article, it mentions the golden age of fast revenue growth and high leverage is probably over. Fast revenue growth, high leverage. So whether you're in China or whether in your Canada or United States, the days of fast leverage and high growth are probably over. So yes, we may not have 80% mortgages anymore. For personal, 95% mortgages. In the United States, 97% of your property can be mortgaged. We probably are not going to have that moving forward. We may have to put 20, 25% down on all homes. That could happen. And the days of home prices skyrocketing, well, those might be over because that all depends on how much money the government is going to print. Are they going to print a lot, or where are they going to put the rates? They put the rates down to zero again, inflation is going to take off again. So this really, the days are probably over, but we don't know for sure. All right, let's go back to this article, man. So much to unpack in this thing, guys. Says here, China is definitely in a very desperate situation. Now, this is still the article from the Daily Wire. He's an economist with BNP. The problem now is effective demand. If you don't allow people to come out and consume, there is no demand. A key sign of flagging Chinese demand is the sharp declines in imports like commodities. Now, we're going to get to that in a second. All right, so China is in a desperate situation. There is no demand. So I'll give it to this guy because he understands what you should have learned in Economics 101, that the whole world runs on supply and demand. Even money. People have a hard time imagining that paper money, dollars, even the mortgage, it's a commodity. Dollars are commodities. So when there's a ton of it out there and the government is printing to the tune of 100 billion a month, of course, they're giving it away for very low rates. They were at like 1%. But today, when there's very little money getting lent out and there's not a lot of money created, interest rates start going up. When they let it go completely to the free market back in the 80s, it went all the way up to like 17%. So this is where even money is a commodity, but at least they understand that there is demand and supply issues. Today, they cannot turn on a button and create tons of gas and have gas for your cars just overflowing everywhere and lower the price. The only mechanism that they have is to reduce demand. And they do that by raising the prices on everything in life so we'll drive less. It's the only way they can balance the market. You either have to boost supply or reduce demand. Make sense? Up for supply, down demand, one or the other. But they're not able to do that. All right, so let's get into the second part of this because I feel that is really important for us as investors. Still in the dailywire.com article, and it's titled "The Chinese Real Estate Collapse Throws the Economy into Crisis." That article says a key sign of flagging Chinese demand is the sharp declines in imports. Notice, like commodities, iron, copper ore that are dropping dramatically. Okay, drastically. China is a leading consumer of commodities on the global market. Now, you guys really need to read through that to figure out how can we be investors in a time like that. So what are they saying? We need demand. There is no demand right now. So because the economy is pulling back and slowing down, if it's slowing down, the demand for them buying shingles for the roof or windows, everything, they're going down too. But is this drop in prices going to be permanent, or is it going to be temporary? And here is the thing. The entire BRICS countries, remember BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Now, there might be others that join it. The world is pulling into two, and they want to have the BRICS countries a new reserve currency based on commodities, gold, silver, or aluminum, gas, right? That type of stuff. So if they have to suck all of those commodities up, you should be doing some of it too. Now, you should not be buying your entire savings, not everything, but you should be thinking about buying some gold, right? Some silver. If you can buy some silver, a 1 ounce round, something like this, you can get a pretty good price on it because the prices have come down quite a bit this year. If you want to start buying in bulk, you can get even bigger discounts. You can buy something like this. This is a 100 ounce bar. Remember, you can buy a 1 ounce coin. This is pretty thin, or you can buy this type of brick. So we stopped by the bank and went into the safety deposit box so that we could get one of these to show you what it looks like. This is 100 coins all put together. So this here is commodities, right? Now, this is what is needed to build solar panels. They need silver to conduct electricity in the solar panels. And now that they have the Inflation Reduction Act that passed in the United States, where they're going full bore towards solar panels, they'll need more and more of this stuff in order to be able to make more of those solar panels. So investing in commodities, something solid, has a really good chance of going up. By the way, as a historical average, gold and silver is normally 70 to 1. But if you go and look today, silver is trading super cheap at something like 86 to 1. So 86 of these to 1 ounce of gold. Wow, right? So like 100 ounces of silver, this is 100, but it would be 86 equivalent to 1 of gold. So that would be a very, very good price for you to jump in on, for sure. Okay, so now that we know that China is the prices of commodities are coming down, but we are now entering a 10-year bull run going into commodities, wouldn't now be a good time to buy some commodities? Now, how much? You should only ever have 5-10% of your wealth stored up in gold and silver, somewhere in that. It has been the same recommendations that they've had for decades. And, if you want to be just a little bit adventurous, we always recommend, put 1, 2, 3% of Bitcoin and Ethereum inside of your portfolio, something like that. That'll help you defend against what is going to be happening in the future, right? All right. Now, let's get into some books, you guys, because this book here was absolutely incredible. The Changing World Order by Ray Dalio. Now, let me give him first. As an author, the guy is awesome. He does some of the best research I've ever seen in my life. That he says you have 3 ways of reading the book. Number 1, you could read the entire page if you would like. But if you want to read it faster, just read the highlighted portions. You don't need to read all the other stuff. If you want to read it even faster and not even take too much time, he says just read where the red dots are. So can you see on this page how there's a red dot? He says just read the paragraph with the red dots. So he kind of has a long form, a medium form, and an ultra fast form that you could read the book one after the other. Now, a lot of books that you read You can listen on the audiobooks, which I really enjoy, but this book is going to make it very difficult for you to read online because it has a lot of charts, and these charts are incredible. While we're on these charts, I just happened to flip open the book at the right time. Um, he, if we're going to talk about these charts right here, these are I couldn't have opened up to a better chart. Actually, this is great. Okay, so let's talk about this chart then. This page right here. Do you notice this page? It says index of key determinants. So what is the keys to being successful? Remembering that Ray Dalio has gone back for hundreds of years. I think he went back originally to around the time of Rome, but this book focuses on the ages of 1500 to 2000. I just took off the jacket here, but this is The Changing World Order by Ray Dalio. And the funny thing is when there are going to have this, what is the very first thing that is the determinant is normally education. Education has to be high first. It's always education, and then they end up losing all of the education. But having high education kind of brings in all the other things. If they have highly educated people, they become more competitive, better economic outlooks, they have more trade, then a bigger military, better financial center, but then everything starts crashing. And did you notice that everything kind of started crashing after what year? Somewhere in the mid 90s, when everything started going south and it just got even worse and worse. So that is what leads to it. So this is why it always starts with education. We need to have good education with people to start doing better in their lives and understand how the market is. Why do you think I always say financial education is key, that you need this to be able to move forward in life? But now let's look at this second chart, man. Really good. Really, really good, I think. This chart right here, the rise. So if you see in the top up there, it says China is in red, the United States are in blue, and England is up here in this, I guess, dark blue. But as you can see, if you combine all of these metrics between the military, competitiveness, economic output, all of those different things, if you do that and then you compare this page right here, what had happened? Well, we saw that the United States was rocketing up, doing amazing, but then it peaked and it's been on its way down because it's so heavy with debt. But look at what happened with China. China is just going stratospheric, like it's going to space. It's taking off and it is very close. But if we chart that out, we can see China still going up and the United States still coming down. So this could show you, right, that China could be in a lot of trouble. I mean, there could be a big conflict between these two world powers. So what I really liked about Ray Dalio is he studies history. I am a history buff. This has a lot of charts in it. I really, really like it. And then once you get into the back, man, you start getting a little glimpse into Ray Dalio's mind and how he can score all of these countries, where he'll pull each country and he's rating them on all their differences, productiveness, technology, trade, all these other things. And he is a genius. So I highly recommend this book. This is the dust jacket, Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order, Why Nations Succeed and Fail. This is what I would take from that book. Is he is looking backwards in history, reading all of the history. The part that kind of makes it a little bit hard, my second favorite book of the year is this book, Peter Zien, The End of the World is Just the Beginning. And it does talk extensively about China. This book, though, is basically looking forward, and Ray Dalio's book is mostly looking backwards, if that makes any sense. And as we read through Ray Dalio's book, one of the best investors of all time, the guy was dead broke in the 70s, turned himself around. Now he runs Bridgewater Associates, one of the biggest hedge funds on earth. I think to become his client, you need $8.5 billion. billion with a B. Crazy. Just to be his client. This book here basically breaks down, if I was going to put it in a nutshell, in 1945, the end of the world happened. The end of the war happened, and the US had all the gold, basically, of the world and had all of the military of the entire world. So they set up a new system saying that the United States will patrol all the oceans. They will defend everybody. They will be a huge military. They have all the money, so that all their money will be based on US dollars. So a British pound, a franc, all of them. The Deutschmark will all be based on a US dollar, which is based on the gold. So that is the system that they set up back then, and we're watching that system break apart. So now that that system is breaking apart, we're seeing like the BRICS countries go on one side, and like North America and Europe pulling on to the other side. And there's a lot of countries in the middle where we don't know where they will land. Okay, but as they're pulling apart, we have a problem. We have spent the last 40, 50 years, instead of, especially since Slick Willie, Bill Clinton there back in the 90s, was it 90s, 99, 2001, something around there, where they signed China to the World Trade Organization and let China trade with 0% duties. So when that happened, hundreds of thousands, millions of jobs stopped in the United States and moved to China, because now they'll work for $2 an hour, whereas in North America, they wanted $50 an hour. So now you could produce goods very, very cheap and have a huge profit margin. I mean, it worked for everyone for a long time. But this is the problem: is over the years, everyone became hyper specialized. I remember the Tesla cars in California are being built, and it all got held up because of $6 USB cables that they were waiting on to come from China. Everybody counts on other places doing their work for them. If you even look from a food standpoint, which the Underworld talks about quite extensively, there is only certain parts of the world that grow food. Now, we in Canada and the United States can grow food all over. We have a good climate, we have some machinery, and we have fertilizer. Not a lot of countries have that. Canada, France, and the United States. A lot of the other countries, if you look at places all over Africa where they have to import food, all over the Middle East, they have to import food. They can't grow anything there. They live in a desert. So those world systems, if they break down and everyone has to do everything for themselves, what is a country, let's just say Iran, that doesn't have a lot of arable land where they can grow food? What are they supposed to do? How do you grow food there? All they have is oil. They don't have any machines there. They don't have any growth sectors there. They buy their medical, they buy the military, they buy everything from other places. They supply oil, everyone sends them stuff. So there's going to be this time of strife that is going to be happening in the meantime, as all the countries start to retool and rebuild everything themselves. And that is what he's talking about. We'll be okay long term. Expect huge inflation, huge price increases in everything. But countries will be okay after 4 or 5 years, but it's going to be a rough road getting to that spot. I think that's going to happen. As you know, I have been saying that the food crisis is going to be massive, in my opinion, especially when we talk to our friends who are farmers in Canada and the United States. We have family in the Netherlands, so we talk to them what's happening over there. So when you start expanding where you're getting your news from, now you start filling in the bigger picture. So we're going to find out just how bad this planting season was at the end of September and beginning of October, somewhere around there. So we're bracing for some really big food price increases. And remember, food price increases mean you got to pay more, but there are hundreds of millions of people who are not going to get any food because you just bought it. So the crippling part to me when I think about that is this is going to hurt and starve, who knows, 200 million, 500 million, I don't know. But people get very upset when you can't eat. We didn't have tons of food just lying around before. So if we have a terrible year, like I think that it's going to happen, my heart breaks for the people who are going to be going hungry. So what can we do about it? Of course, you can give to your local charities wherever you think is best, but I think you should also be stocking up food today in your home. What can you store? Lentils, beans, rice. You can have a freezer, get some extra meat in it. You can buy fruits and vegetables, all inside of cans, dried stuff. They usually last 2, 3, 4 years. And so when we look at countries that are falling apart, like Lebanon, like Venezuela, like Sri Lanka, they're falling in front of us, but no one is taking heed. Everyone is talking around the water cooler. Can you believe how much rent has gone up? Can you believe how much this is? And you're not getting any wage increases, but there is no fear in the market yet. There is no paranoia in the market yet. There is no bloodbath that's happened yet. And that will come. And that's when I'm going to be ready to buy. So I've been preparing for this since 2010, you guys. So what I can encourage you is go buy some gold, go buy some silver, and make something of yourself. So these two books, I strongly suggest that everybody go read these two books. One kind of said China will take over the world. One says China will collapse. So you got to figure out, where are you? Which camp are you? Try and find what you believe is the truth when we read those two. They both have incredibly good points. Incredibly good. The one thing I don't think that Ray Dalio pointed to is the demographic collapse that is happening in China right now, that the majority of the population is elderly. Remember, they had one kid policy for 40 years. And so they're decimating their population. It's at a population level. They're not even at the age of replacement. You need 2.1 children per parents just as replacement. So the population will collapse. Problem number one. Problem number two, there's 10 million houses there that are empty that no one has to move into. So if your population collapses even more, imagine how many more empty homes there are there. So that is a very different market than Canada, which is short 1.5 million homes. This is different than in United States, where they are short 6 million homes. That's a different story than having 20 million extra homes just lying around. Japan has so few people now below the replacement rate that they have 9 million homes, I think it was, that is empty. So this is completely different. Though we call it recession, just think of it like the word trouble. But what is the trouble, right? We got to dig a little bit deeper. There's always opportunities out there. Anyway, you guys, if I've given you any value to this, I'd really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe to it. I would really appreciate it. Just want to get to 1,000 people. We want you to get really, really good, pay attention, take advantage of opportunities. Anyway, I'm always here for your health, wealth, and happiness. I'll see you on the next video.